Hey everybody, welcome to my MATLAB course. It's Alex Louie here with another course entry in YouTube. So today what we're going to learn about is the MATLAB Desktop Environment. And in the MATLAB Desktop Environment, you have a lot of parts that we need to pay attention to. So let's get to it. Okay. So on the top you'll see that you have a couple of tabs. So that's pretty much your kind of your parent menus. You got home, plots, apps, editor, publish, and view. For now, let's just focus on the home tab because that's pretty much what we're going to be spending majority of our time in. If you look at the home tab, there is a help button here that you can click on if you ever need help on certain functions that you have questions about, because MATLAB has a lot of pre-written functions that you can use. So the help button will help you find definitions of a function and how to use specific functions. And we'll go through the help button, once we get to coding a little bit more in MATLAB. The other buttons that I would like you to focus on as well is the new script, live script, new live script buttons. So basically, we're going to be writing MATLAB scripts. And whenever you just want to start out a new script from the beginning, you would just click on new script. So that pretty self-explanatory so far. And then if you want to open a current script, you can just click on open from here. Now let's start from the left, right? So on the left is your current working directory. It's going to default to whatever directory in terms of Windows. I don't know about Mac, but in Windows it's going to default to the users directory where you have your login. Okay, you may want to change this. So the way to change that is you would click on this is called the address bar. So I want to double click on that. Once you double click on that, I can go to maybe Alex A, documents, and if I do that, then I can navigate to different directories within my hard drive. I'm pretty sure that if you were using a Mac, you can probably navigate through the address bar to the different directories on your Mac hard drive. On the lower left, you'll see a details window. For now, we really don't want to concern ourselves too much with what this is for, but when you start writing scripts and using data files, you will be able to see the properties of the files that you are currently working on. This is more important when you're actually using import files where you have data that you want to analyze. You would probably want to see the details of those files in here. Okay, that's what it says. Select the file to view details. So because these are folders, they're not going to really give you much. In the middle, there are two parts. Okay, so and this can be very intimidating at first as to what the heck is going on with this. So on the top, you're going to see the MATLAB Editor. In MATLAB, there's two ways to run a program. First, obviously, you have to write code, and you can write blocks of code using MATLAB Script, and you would probably put your MATLAB Script code in an editor and then run it. Or you can, if you want to test some things real quick, you can always use the MATLAB command window to run a few quick commands. So for example, let's say I just want to use the square root function and I do square root of 64, then it solves it to 8. Let's say I just want to do something real quick like that. I know that 5 times 23 is 115. So the MATLAB command window is a glorified calculator with obviously 10 times more functionality than a normal calculator, because you have all the MATLAB functions available to you. And it doesn't require you to run and compile a MATLAB script, whereas the MATLAB editor, you will have to run you will have to write MATLAB code, which will eventually have syntactical rules that you have to follow so that it can run correctly. Now, how would you run a MATLAB script? Well, you notice that for the command window, all I had to do was press enter and it just ran and computed that. If I was going to write code in an editor, I would have to switch up my tab to the editor tab. And then if I wanted to write the, say I just, I'm going to just do that. Okay. I want to run that. It's going to prompt me to save. So under documents, maybe I'll create a MATLAB folder. Do that real quick. Oh, I already have one. I didn't know that. Let's do that here. Let's call this desktop nav. Okay, so we do that. So you see that for the most part, it didn't actually do anything, right? Well, that's because there's other commands that we need to use once we have the function, okay, so that it can actually show on the command window. So here's an important detail about MATLAB scripts. If you put a semicolon, it's going to suppress the output to the command window, and that's something you're going to want when you're writing a MATLAB script. But for all intents and purposes, I don't want to suppress. So as you saw before, let me run this again. You see that all I saw was the name of my script. If I actually wanted to see what's happening after this line, I'll just get rid of the semicolon. I run that, and you'll see that now my script runs, and then my answer is stored in a reserved variable called ans. So ans is a variable that MATLAB uses to keep track of the last result in a script function or line or a command window command. And you can use this a lot just to test your functions or test pieces of code so that you have the last variable, you have that variable to compute other values. So let's say, for instance, I ran this and I needed the ans, and I want to run something real quick like ans times 10. So if I do ans times 10, you'll see that now ans becomes 48.98, but it used the previous value of ans. And that's where I was going to segue now into the right hand side. So the right hand side is a workspace. In the workspace, keeps track of all the data that you're going to be using and all the data that you're going to be storing and declaring. So just a quick example. I'm going to get into this more in the couple of next lectures, but let's say I want to create a allocation and not keep square root in ans. I want to create my own storage. So let's say I want to say square root result. Okay, so if I do that, okay, what's happening is I'm taking the result of that and I'm storing it in a what we call a new variable. This is a variable, and I name it whatever I want, called sqrt underscore result. So now if I run this, you'll see on the right hand side that sqrt result now has this value. So the workspace itself is going to keep track of all the variables defined in my current workspace. And we can think of the workspace as where you currently are at in the editor. Okay, so one thing to keep in mind is that if you're running a couple of scripts, you have a second script on the same working tabs. Okay, so here I have, let's say I have desktop nav 2. Both of these tabs will share the same workspace. So you have to be careful when you're running multiple scripts, because you can get in trouble if you're declaring different variables of the same name, or just dealing with ans, because I can change the value of ans by running this square root of 21. Okay, so 4.58. And then if I go back here, if I took this away and I ran this, see now ans changed. So there's no sense of having two workspaces per tab. As many as however many tabs you have, you're really only going to have one workspace. So that means the variables are always going to be shared. Rule of thumb is you're better off working on one tab. If you're going to have another script that you want to test, I would probably close this and then clear the workspace. So how you clear the workspace, you would go to the workspace, right click on it, and just click on clear workspace, and it's going to clear everything to the right. So all in all, my long-winded answer becomes short, is that the right will just keep track of your variables in the workspace. In the workspace is whatever your current tabs you're working on in the editor, in the MATLAB editor, and the command window as well. Okay, so just be careful with that. Okay, I think that pretty much covers it in terms of the fundamental desktop environment of MATLAB. I hope you learned a little bit, not too intimidating now that you are familiar with the different parts of the MATLAB desktop environment. Hope to see you on the next lecture.